The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
No. Cool. Okay, hello everybody. I think we've solved the technical issues that we have. I'm sorry for the delay. I'm going to start from the beginning. I know some of you may have heard this and some of you may not. So I'm going to start from the beginning. If you're having trouble hearing me, you need to turn up the volume on your computer. Sometimes the volume on the computer is down and you have trouble hearing the presenter. So if you do that now, I'd appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Again, sorry for the delay. I'm Rick Montemore, who is the current administrator of the housing production programs here at the Department of Community Affairs. Before I begin the presentation, I would like to thank Governor Murphy and Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver for recognizing the need for affordable housing in New Jersey. I would also like to thank Ms. Stacy Berger, as well as the Housing and Community Development Network of New Jersey as a whole, for keeping the issue of affordable housing in the public eye. This public and private partnership has made this new allocation of $60 million possible. Although we are building on the past, we are looking to the future to build quality, affordable housing and hopefully develop new and innovative ideas for sustainable living. Today, I'm going to briefly go over some of the parameters of the program, as well as introduce you to the SAGE application, which is the application that you will be applying through.
Got 20 messages wondering what's happening.
I'm going to continue. We're still having, evidently, the viewing is off, but the information is accurate. So as I mentioned, what we'd like to do is go through some of the parameters of the program today, as well as take you through step by step through the application process. By introduction, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is set up to assist in the delivery of affordable housing to both low and moderate income, meaning families and individuals earning less than 80% of the median. The fund was established in 1985, so it's been around for a while. It previously was funded under the Balanced Housing Program. And it is funded by the realty transfer fee. Hopefully the preview is now accurate. I'm going to ask one of my staff to check on that just to make sure that everyone can see what I'm seeing. Program description. The purpose of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is to provide municipalities, also through nonprofits and for-profits, financial assistance to help with the development of affordable housing, both rental and affordable housing in the way of home ownership. The funding categories. The new amount of funding that we received, we've divided into three separate categories. One is the Municipal Settlement Fund. Projects under that fund will have a maximum award amount of $6 million. And I'll go into these a little bit more detail in the next slide. The Neighborhood Partnership Fund, again, maximum project award of $6 million. And then we kind of have a new fund. It's called the Innovative Fund. The maximum award there is $2 million. What we've actually done is set 50% of the money aside for the municipal fund, 40% of the money aside for the partnership fund, and 10% set aside for the innovative fund. Now, of course, depending on the types of application we get and the amount of the activity, we may shift some of those funds around, but right now that's how we're allocating it. The municipal fund. The municipal fund was set aside specifically for those towns that have done court settlements, mostly through fair share housing. And that will probably be the majority of the applicants. You must have completed your settlement agreement in order to be eligible under this fund. Again, depending on what the amount of applications we get and how much activity, we may swap some of the money around. You will be asked in the application to identify which fund you are funding under. But again, staff will look at that when we receive the application and maybe switch you from another fund. The second fund is the Neighborhood Partnership Fund. That's specifically for urban aid municipalities. And what we're looking for here is partnerships with other state, local, private initiatives, much like the Neighborhood Preservation Program, the Neighborhood Tax Credit Program, Main Street, Transit Villages, local aid and economic development, opportunity zones, which, as everyone knows, is a big topic in today's world, Economic Development Authority funds, and any other state investments that might be out there. Again, this is just a brief list of types of programs that we're looking to partnership with, and I'm sure we're missing quite a few. We're also looking for partnerships with private sector investors, such as community development financial institutions, foundations, hospitals, partnerships with private individuals such as Wells Fargo and other banks or financial institutions that have grant loan programs. The Innovative Fund, this is a kind of a new idea, and it's a little bit exciting. We expect to get applications for things that we might not normally see. We understand there may be some housing under this category, much like makerhoods or tiny homes, maybe new technologies, healthy. Hold on. Also under the umbrella of the Innovation Fund, we're looking for new ideas for housing, case studies, new planning grants, things of that nature, studies on regulatory barriers, how to maintain construction costs, pretty much any kind of new technology you can come up with. Again, we're going to meet with anyone that's interested on a one-on-one basis so that we can explore this in a little more detail. But this Innovation Fund is kind of a cure-all. We understand, as I said, we're going to do housing under this as well, but we're also looking for other ideas. Okay, who is eligible for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund? By statute, a municipality must be eligible under certain categories. Some of these are dated, but again, when we meet with you, we'll discuss which category you're falling under. I think a majority of the municipalities will fall under the last two categories. One being eligible for state aid, which is the urban aid municipalities. And then the last one is the judicially approved settlement agreements, which I think currently are about 320 have been done over the last few years. So I think a majority of the applicants, the eligibility will fall under these last two categories. Funding cycles. We're not having funding cycles. What we're doing is taking applications on a rolling basis. So as your project becomes closer to fruition, then we would expect you to then meet with us and discuss and move forward. The applications are submitted electronically through our SAGE system, which all of DCA awards are now being processed through. This is a complete application, grant process, payment process. It takes you through application all the way through final payment and closeouts. So it's critical that when you apply to enter the SAGE that you put the correct information, and I'll touch on that a little later going through, but a lot of people are kind of afraid of electronic applications, but this is actually fairly friendly. So also, along with the electronic application, we're going to request that you provide 2 hard copies of any and all attachments. One of the reasons for the hard copies is we do a lot of uploads, but unfortunately some of our systems don't accept other types of formats and we end up not being able to see things. So we prefer even though you may want to upload it if it's available within the Sage application, we ask that you please provide hard copies as well. As I mentioned a few times already, staff will be available for one-on-one technical assistance upon request. Who can be the developer or sponsor? Obviously, municipalities can apply on behalf of themselves, for-profit housing sponsors, nonprofit housing sponsors, and individual corporations and limited partnerships. Now, although I said earlier that the only ones that are eligible for the funding is a municipality, we do have a process by which the municipality can approve your project, support your project, and allow us to contract with you directly. Types of projects that are eligible: rental, home ownership, other innovative housing and non-housing, which I touched on earlier. What projects are not eligible? Projects that are an affordable portion of any inclusionary housing project. We're under the assumption that if it's an inclusionary housing project, it's already funded through some other source or internal subsidy. Conversion of public housing to home ownership. The payment of court-ordered judgments or government-imposed fines. Projects that can be funded from other sources. Projects that are currently or anticipate receiving DCA or HMFA funding. The assumption there is that if you're already applying for those other sources, that you are fully funded. Projects containing more than 25 units. This initiative, through this allocation, we're limiting to small projects. All projects must have affordability controls of less than 20 years. I'm sorry. The minimum affordability control under this program is 20 years. So if your project has affordability controls less than 20 years, you are not eligible. Go through the application review process. As mentioned earlier, the application is through Sage. Sage is an electronic system, web-based, just like anything else. Some of these items are the items we're going to be asking for within that application, much like any other development schedule that you may provide to banks or other funding sources. We're looking for pretty much the same thing, although there's some extra documents. One being a municipal resolution of support. We have both the municipal resolution of support, and if it's a nonprofit or for-profit, a resolution of support from the applicant's board. Both those resolutions are embedded in the Sage application. You can download them, just fill them in, and have them executed. I know some municipalities like to expand on our basic resolution. That's fine too. However, we like to keep it simple, and you'll see that they're very simple one-page resolutions. Site control. Site control is a big issue. We like to see site control. It's a requirement. We need to know that you have control of the site. We don't want to waste your time or our time going through an application that you do not have site control for. And site control can be a variety of things. I'll touch on that a little later. Financial commitments. We want to know that you have other funding sources. Preliminary site approval, if it's applicable. Again, we don't want to take a lot of time and effort on projects that will eventually possibly not get done. Development schedule. We want to know what your schedule is. Who's going to do it? Financial performance. We have a budget within Sage. We also have most of, if not all of the pages in Sage are fillable radio buttons, narrative boxes, things like that help you get this done. Again, project size is limited to 25 or less. Projects cannot be located in floodplains or environmentally sensitive areas. Again, we're looking for quality projects. All the units must be income restricted. Occupants limited to families earning less than 80% of median. And you must use NJHAS as the administrative agent. All of our projects use the same administrative agent. That way all of the information is in one place. Remember, we are a gap financer. we will not replace what you can get on the private end or some other source. So we want to see what other sources you've applied for or have talked to. We also want to know that you've talked to a bank for construction financing and permanent financing if it is a rental property. We expect that you have a permanent mortgage that can be carried by the rents. It must be permanent housing, leases of at least 1 year. We're looking at the capacity and experience of the developer. With the acquisition, which is an eligible cost under the program, as long as it's part of the project, we're not looking for land banking at this point. We will use either the sale price or the appraised value. We also have reasonable cost criteria. That's based on square footage costs that we think a project should cost based on the type of project that you have. Single family, row home, 4-story buildings all have different square footage requirements. Again, it's embedded in the SAGE system, and you will be asked to identify your project and go through the process. We are limiting the developer fees to 8%. Soft costs are limited to 28%. And we expect rental projects to have a debt coverage ratio of at least 1.2. We also have a unit pricing requirement that is through UHAC, the Uniform Housing Affordability Control. We're looking at projects that have half the units at low and half the units at mod, and an average range so that all of the units aren't at the top of 80%. So the average range of affordability for a rental project should be somewhere around 52%. For a home ownership project, it should be 57.5%. We're looking for affirmative marketing requirements, and you must use the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency Resource Center as part of your marketing effort. We also require a minimum size. Again, we're looking for quality projects. So minimum unit size for studio is 500 square feet, 1 bedroom 600, 2 bedroom 750, 3 bedroom 950, 4 bedroom 1150. These are pretty standard out there today. We also look for a minimum bedroom size. We've ran into projects where they have very small bedrooms of 70 square feet or 75 square feet. We want at least one of those bedrooms, especially in a 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom, to be 150. And then no bedroom should be less than 100 square feet. Additional requirements, we have green requirements that are listed in the Balanced Housing Regulations. We require fire suppression for all units, and we require that any new unit meet Energy Star, and any rehabbed unit try to meet Energy Star the best they can. Other criteria, we're looking for leverage. We're looking for other participants in the project, whether it's a municipal, whether it's another county fund, what have you. We're looking for partnerships. We're also looking for partnerships with private sector investors. Again, on a rental project, you may be involved with a bank. On some of the other projects, you may have a Wells Fargo award. So there's a variety of things out there, but again, we're looking for partnerships. Some of the items I mentioned previously add to the sustainability and resilience of the housing. As noted, the minimum requirement for the affordability controls is 20 years. So we're looking for projects that will stand up to the test of time and be quality projects, not only from the beginning, but at the end of the 20-year period. We're looking for projects that are walkable. We understand that some municipalities cannot meet that because of where they're located, but at best, we're looking at projects that have access to public transportation. We look for mixed-use projects. We look for accessibility. We're asking that the units be accessible. We ask that projects addressing gentrification may get a plus from us if they're in areas where the affordable housing is being lost. And we also look for projects that are targeting lower income families and large families. It's very difficult out there to find 3 and 4 bedroom units So if you're targeting that population, you get a plus from us. Also, longer affordability periods. I mentioned 20 as being the minimum. However, you can make your affordability controls as long as you would like. And amenities. We're looking for additional amenities. If you're doing a 4-bedroom unit, we would hope that you had 2 bathrooms, maybe a yard off, maybe off-street parking, things of that nature, porches, any kind of amenity that makes the project special. Also, projects should be good neighbors. We're looking for projects that fit the neighborhood, that don't stand out as affordable housing. I think pretty much we're past that now. Most of the affordable housing projects I see that are being developed out there fit well into the neighborhoods, are well designed. How the funds are provided. Under the municipal neighborhood and housing, and any housing that's under the innovative category, the funds are provided as a soft second loan. The repayment terms are 50% of cash flow. Now, since it's a soft second loan, it doesn't hurt your ability in rental projects to get a first mortgage. If there's money at the end of the day, then we split the cash flow with you as part of the repayment. It's not a hard number. If there's no cash flow at the end of the day, we don't get anything, you don't get anything. The project moves forward. Also, the funds are provided at 0% interest during construction. They will convert to a permanent the first day of the first month after CO. Also, during construction, since they're essentially grants at that point, 0% interest. I shouldn't say grants because it's not a grant, but it's 0% interest, so it doesn't hurt. It helps your pro forma. You don't have to carry so much interest in your pro forma during your construction period, since our money is available at 0% interest. For sale projects, again, the construction financing at 0% interest. Innovative category, non-housing. At this point, again, it's a new category. We're trying to work our way through it. So those funds will probably be awarded as a grant or some other arrangement depending on the type of award we're providing. SAGE application, web-based grant management system. The link's right here. You can also type in your browser, NJDCA SAGE, or any thing of that nature. I think even if you type in SAGE, you'll get to this main the SAGE page. This system is like any other web-based application system. You must apply. You must apply as an applicant and get access. So the page you're seeing is what you're going to see when you log in. You're not going to log in, but the first thing you're going to see. What I have highlighted on the right-hand side is where you request SAGE access. Again, it's kind of a self-explanatory. You click on that, it'll bring up various pages asking you for applicant information, address, emails, contacts, things of that nature. Also on the left-hand side, I have a link that says View Available Grant Opportunities. You can click on that and see anything that's available without even getting access to SAGE or being in SAGE. You can always just click on the left and see what other grant opportunities are available through DCA. When you click on that, you'll see not only housing RFPs, but you'll see any other RFP that's available within the department. So again, you would click on this, gain access. They will send you a password and a username. You will then go into this page again and sign in. Important things are remembering when registering in SAGE. As I mentioned earlier, I believe that every single municipality is already in SAGE. However, I think most of the housing projects, and this is only a guess, but it's based on historical information, will be done by nonprofit or for-profits with the municipal support. So when you're applying for a housing project, you must register as the entity that will own the property. The example, ABC Development Corp. owns the property under another name, Stonehouse Estates LLC. Stonehouse Estate LLC is the entity that must register in Sage. And again, as I mentioned earlier, Sage is not only an application process, it's also a grant loan process. It will develop the contract between you and DCA for the funding. You will access your payments through Sage. So you want to start out with the right name of the applicant. When you do enter Sage, this is what you'll see. This is the home page for Sage. You've already gotten your password. You've now gained access to Sage. Up in the right-hand corner where it says Initiate, there'll be a drop-down. You'll see the little arrow to the right. Based on how you applied in Sage, whether you applied as a nonprofit, for-profit, municipality, what have you, you will see what grant programs you are eligible to apply for. Within this drop-down menu will be the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. You will click on that, and that will initiate an application. You also see where I highlighted quick links. Down at the bottom, there are manuals. You'll see Grant User Manual. Any questions you have when you're trying to go through this process can hopefully be answered through that manual. However, we are always available to answer your questions. Our IT department is always available to answer your questions. We have an IT person assigned specifically to Sage, and they'll be able to walk you through if you're having trouble. Within the Sage application, specifically for housing projects, in all three funding pools, we're going to be asking for the following information. And it's good for you to know that prior to your application. It's also good to know prior to your meeting with us on our one-on-one. The application forms. First information we're going to request in there is applicant information. There's also a municipal worksheet. It'll go through a worksheet that outlines different things a municipality may be providing to the project, such as funds from their housing trust fund, a pilot, RCA, and anything that they might have, home funds. It's just kind of a quick and easy look to see what funds are also available for your project. And again, none of this has to be done prior to the one-on-one. I'm just walking you through the application, so when you finally do open an application, you kind of know what to expect. Project information. We're going to be asking you what funding pool you are applying under. And again, these are just radio buttons or text boxes. In this case, it's a radio button. You'll just click which one, save the page, and move on to the next one. Project location. We want to know where the project is. This also asks for address, census information, block and lot, things of that nature. Within this page, there are some embedded links to take you to those websites that will provide that information for you. And again, some are radio buttons, some are fill-in, some are text boxes. Project description. We want to know what you're doing. We want to know exactly what this project is, not just that it's a 4-unit rental project. We want to know something about the neighborhood. We want to know who you're partnering with. We want to know a good general narrative so that we can picture this project. And again, we're going to use this at some point. We'll come out for a site visit and you can walk us through it, but we want to know up front what you're doing, who you're doing it with, and why you're doing it. Type of development is again just a text or radio buttons that say new construction, rehab, things of that nature. Unit breakdown. We want to know how many units you have, the size of the units, the affordability of the units, things of that nature. And again, it's a page that you fill in and also allows you links to income limits, to utility charts, things of that nature that are required under this program. Range of affordability calculation, that will do your own. You'll fill in the information, hit the save button, it'll calculate it for you. Anywhere there's a calculation, the application will do it for you. However, some people have trouble thinking that when you're putting the information, it's going to do the calculation right away. It doesn't do that. What you have to do is you have to save the page first, and it will do the calculation for you. Site information. We're going to ask for a description of the site, where it is, what utilities it has available to it, things of that nature. Site control. Mentioned earlier, we want site control. We need to know that you somehow have site control, whether it's through a municipal resolution saying you're a redeveloper, whether it's an option, whether it's a contract of sale, whether it's a property you've owned for a while, so you can present a deed, whatever you can show us that you now have control of that site. Site conditions. Again, I mentioned earlier about environmental issues and things of that nature. It's a variety of questions that we will ask you related to site conditions. Zoning and planning. Earlier I mentioned we'd like you to have, if you require it, all your zoning and planning approvals in place. Development information. We're asking information on the sponsor, the owner. Again, I mentioned earlier that maybe they're different. Development team. We want to know who's on your team. Development consultant, project attorney, project accountant, architect, engineer, builder contractor, management entity if there's a rental project, service provider if there's social services provided, and anybody else that's involved with your project. Project schedule. We're going to look, there's a timeline for development. It's probably got, 20 things listed on it, and we expect you to put who's going to do that and the date you expect that to be done so that we have some idea of where you are with this project. Project pro forma, rentals only. There's a page in Sage that has an operating pro forma. There's supporting pages for that pro forma. It will ask you your real estate, what you're setting aside for management fees, what you're setting aside for management or maintenance contracts, things of that nature. There's worksheets that lead up to the pro forma. You do the worksheet and then plug that information into the pro forma. Again, it's helpful to kind of go through the pages as they're presented, and that helps you down the line. Project sources. We're looking for all sources in the project. That's for both construction and permanent. They're separate pages within Sage, and we expect the permanent sources to add up to the proposed budget, which only makes sense. You need to have the amount of money to pay for your expenses. And then there's a budget that's embedded in Sage. You will be asked to fill in that budget. It has different categories you can pick, such as acquisition, development, construction contingency, things of that nature. It's going to ask you for both what you expect DCA to pay for as well as what your other sources are paying for. And again, the budget should equal your sources. The innovative pool, non-housing applications. As I mentioned earlier, this is a new category for us, so we're not quite sure what we're going to get. But we're asking that you submit a pre-application, which we'll touch on later in the slide presentation, outlining what your ideas are and your intended initiatives. Again, we're not going to hold you to this. We're just looking to see what you're thinking about, and maybe we can help you massage it a little bit to make it work for the program. Once we get that pre-application, we'll set up a one-on-one meeting to discuss your idea in more detail, and then we can move to the application stage. For additional information, the actual Sage application will be available on or about March 16th. Prior to opening an application, we'd recommend that you do a pre-application. Upon receipt of the pre-application, staff will schedule a one-on-one technical assistance meeting to discuss your project in more detail. Again, this is going to be an informal meeting. We're not going to expect you to have tablets and PowerPoints unless you do, but it's just us sitting down with you and you telling us what you want to do. So To submit a pre-application, you can click on the link below. It'll open up a 2-page simple fillable PDF. It's asking for your name, address, contact information, project name, location, what you think the project's going to cost, what sources you think you can utilize, and a project description. And again, this is basically just to give staff some background so that we can discuss your project. Other things you might want to look into is the balanced housing regulations, or I'm sorry, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund guidelines, which I'm assuming most of you have already looked at if you're on this webinar. But I would look through that because there's a little more detail in that. Also, the balanced housing regulations, see the link below, and that will give you some other details such as the green homes requirement, the fire suppression requirement, things of that nature. All through this presentation and through constant discussions, everyone I'm hoping understands that only 80% of median households are eligible for this funding. Some of the funding will be utilized for rental and homeownership. I'm not talking about the innovative fund. I'm just talking about housing projects. They will have to meet the uniform housing affordability controls, which the link is here for you. It will describe parameters by which you need to affirmatively market the project. It will provide links to documents that you will need at the end of your development, whether it's rental or for sale. But again, I'd like you to just get familiar with this and before you come and see us, and we can discuss any issues or questions you have. There's a lot of information here. So please look at all those links before you come and visit us. Any questions related to this webinar can be directed to the email on your screen. Upon receipt of your question, we will develop a frequently asked question list of all questions and then provide them to anyone that was on this webinar, as well as post it on our website. So I would like to thank you for participating. Again, if you have any questions, please direct them to this link, and we will get back to you as soon as possible with the a list of all questions and comments and questions in the near future. Thank you.